the 10th of July 2011, the last ever edition of the News of the World newspaper was published. This is News Corp, News UK's headquarters on News Group newspapers. If you search on the internet for Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, you'll see at the end of 2024 they weaponised a Part 36 offer to effectively silence me and keep my evidence against it out of court. I asserted in my claim, and specifically the claim, that the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood drugged my drinks, used phone hacking, unlawful information gathering, and fabricated lies and tainted evidence to create a malicious prosecution and a miscarriage of justice. On the 3rd of February 2026, I'll be going to the Criminal Cases Review Commission in Birmingham with all the fresh evidence I've got, thanks to disclosure from News Group that Enfield archives contained the videos, the audios, the private investigator receipts, and the proof of lies and fabrications of a story that led to a malicious prosecution and wrongful conviction. As part of their settlement with me, they gave me a private letter of apology in March 2025, apologising for the unlawful activities of their News of the World journalists. Along with the videos and audios, they've given me my tunneling order and my settlement permission to use the contents of the Enfield archives to prove I'm innocent, always was, and have been telling the truth all the time. Hence, on the 3rd of February, I go back to the Criminal Cases Review Commission. Check out unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. As you may already be aware, my legal case against News Group newspapers, which was filed on the 30th of September 2022, was settled by them weaponising a Part 36 offer in late 2024, December to be precise. They paid me a substantial amount of money, as all innocent people do, sarcasm intended, and disclosed copious amounts of information to me, and then in early 2025 issued me a private letter of apology, apologising for the actions of their News of the World journalists in the formulation of a 1998 News of the World sting article about me, which led to a malicious prosecution and me being wrongfully convicted for 2 counts of delivery of counterfeit coins. During disclosure in my case, Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, disclosed to me were covert video recordings, audio recordings, documents, receipts for private investigators, photographs, and other evidence that proves beyond any reasonable doubt, I would assert, that my convictions are unsafe, which is why I will, on Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026, be returning to the Criminal Cases Review Commission in Birmingham with this new evidence that was disclosed to me in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, and a bunch of other witness statements and evidence from other victims of Mazher Mahmood that cast light on his dishonesty, his long-term serial perjury, and his illegal antics, such as I would assert, as I did in my claim Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, that he drugged my drinks, he definitely used phone hacking and other unlawful information gathering, he had no prima facie evidence of any wrongdoing, thus he had no public interest journalism defence for breaking the law and inciting me to do things I didn't want to do, which is what happened, and is explained at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank my civil solicitors, namely, this is my wonderful functional neurological, Alex Cochrane and Sir Charles Bracken of Edwards, Duddy, Shamash solicitors. I'd also like to thank my civil barrister, David Sherborne, and my legal research team, Dr. Evan Harris, Dan Waddle, and Mr. Graham Johnson, all of whom helped me get the evidence to take my claim Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers to hear, that was fired, as I've already said, on the 30th of September 2022. Now, I said before that a Part 36 offer was weaponised. What this essentially means is they, to silence me and keep my evidence out of court, offered me more money than a judge would have been likely to do had it gone in court. But what it meant in the process is that a judge couldn't rule on that evidence of Mahmood drugging my drinks, of Mahmood hacking my phone, using other unlawful information gathering techniques, publishing fabricated, malicious lies and putting this all together to create a malicious prosecution that resulted in 2 now unsafe criminal convictions, which I'm going to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on the 3rd of February 2026. For that, I'm being helped by Mr. James Manning, my criminal barrister of Nexus Chambers, who I would also like to thank for his help. And leading up to that, my previous attempts to get these unsafe convictions overturned, I'd like to thank the secret barrister who gave me advice. I'd like to thank Solicitor Mark Lake. I'd like to thank Matt Stanbury, the public lawyer. I'd like to thank Siobhan Egan of Lewis Neighbours Law and all the other people who've helped me over the years to accumulate the absolute masses of cast iron evidence I now have that's going to the Criminal Case Review Commission on the 3rd of February 2026 at 10:30 a.m. I'll be there. Full details are at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. Hi, my name's Alex Smith, better known as Jonathan Royle, hypnotist of magicalguru.com. On the 30th of September 2022, I filed a legal case against Rupert Murdoch's news group newspapers, Alex Smith versus NGN. Indeed, I was one of the last 3 people standing with Lord Tom Watson and Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, who's actually here today with his case against the Daily Mail. In any event, the evidence that was disclosed to me during that case, on Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026, I'm returning to the Criminal Cases Review Commission in Birmingham with the videos, with the audios, with the documents, with all the evidence and the letter of apology from news group newspapers that shows that their 1998 fabricated story about me, my former stage name of Alex Leroy, was exactly that. Fabricated, nonsense lies that, together with the perjurious lies of the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood, combined with his fabricated, spliced evidence and the fact that along the way I assert that he drugged my drinks, as well as hacked my mobile phone and various other unlawful and illegal activities, all together collectively render my criminal convictions for delivery of counterfeit coins completely and utterly unsafe. Hence the return to the Criminal Cases Review Commission at 10:30 a.m. on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026. You can get the full backstory at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. Hi, my name by birth is Alex William Smith. I'm better known as Jonathan Royle, hypnotist of magicalguru.com, and as you can see on the website unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com, I'm returning to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 with masses of fresh evidence that my convictions are unsafe. Convictions that were caused by a malicious prosecution by Rupert Murdoch's fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood, who was jailed in relation to his lies surrounding the collapsed drugs trial concerning Talisa Contostavlos, the British pop star. He was jailed here at the Central Criminal Courts, the Old Bailey in London, in October 2016. I was there to see that, and then in 2022, September the 30th to be precise, I filed a claim, Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, against the publication where he published his lies about me in 1998. During the disclosure in that case, I got videos, audios, receipts, documents galore, fresh evidence that proves beyond any reasonable doubt my convictions are completely unsafe, that he drugged my drinks, that he hacked my phone, that he fabricated the whole nonsense charade, published lies, and then lied to the police and the Crown Prosecution Service, causing a malicious prosecution of unsafe convictions, which you can learn more about at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. Hi, my name's Alex William Smith by birth. I'm better known as Jonathan Royle, hypnotist of magicalguru.com. I'm here at Scotland Yard. Very important to my story and my experiences with Rupert Murdoch's fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood, because in recent years I discovered evidence and proof that the Metropolitan Police and the Crown Prosecution Service both communicated with each other in writing in 1994, stating to each other after the collapse of a court case where Mahmood was the principal and chief witness that collapsed because of his lies. They stated in writing to each other that he could not and should not ever be relied upon as a witness of truth ever again. And yet they carried on turning a blind eye to his dishonesty and unreliability until the collapse of the Leveson drugs trial in 2014. At no point to this date, in January 2026, have the Metropolitan Police, Greater Manchester Police or the Crown Prosecution Service ever disclosed to me or any victims of the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood that they knew he could not be relied upon as a witness of truth in 1994. Indeed, the Met Police, Greater Manchester Police and the CPS have never disclosed to me or any other fake Sheikh victims any of the other dozen or so trials and cases that collapsed because of Mahmood's perjurious lies and fabricated evidence. That fails under CIPA disclosure rules of 1996. Both the police and CPS failed seriously in their disclosure duties, rendering my convictions completely unsafe, and that's why on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 I'll be returning to the Criminal Cases Review Commission in Birmingham with tons of fresh evidence to clear my name. Full details are at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. I'm at the Crown Prosecution Service in London. Here's an interesting one for you, and there's more background on this at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. Well, the Crown Prosecution Service communicated in writing with the Metropolitan Police in 1994 saying that Rupert Murdoch's fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood could not and should not ever be relied upon as a witness of truth ever again, and yet they carried on turning a blind eye to his perjurious lies and dishonest techniques and tainted evidence until the collapse of the Leveson trial in 2014. Which is why, after successfully having sued Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers in Alex Smith versus MGN, which was settled at the end of 2024, and in 2025 News Group newspaper issued me a private letter of apology, apologising for the actions of their journalist in the formulation of the 1998 sting story that was fabricated and contained lies about me. Well, that disclosure in that case gave me tons of fresh evidence, and I'm going to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 to have my case referred to the Court of Appeal, and amongst that is evidence that the CPS failed in their disclosure duties from as far back as 1994. To this day, they have never disclosed to me or any other fake Sheikh victim the dozen or more cases that collapsed because of Mahmood's tainted evidence and perjurious lies. unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. Here I am at the Houses of Parliament in London. Quite relevant to my fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood story, because the current Prime Minister is of course Sir Keir Starmer, who used to be the Director of Public Prosecutions for the Crown Prosecution Service during the time that they were deciding who they would charge in the phone hacking scandal around 2011 period of time. And in a recent documentary on television, Sue Ackers, who was from the Metropolitan Police, stated that it was Sir Keir Starmer that encouraged her not to investigate the corporate governance, the higher up bosses at News Group newspapers, and to not go after them and charge them for their involvement in covering up, turning a blind eye to phone hacking. Well, phone hacking wise, I've now got proof that the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood routinely used such in his sting operations to stitch people up, and he used it on me to help create a malicious prosecution which led to 2 unsafe criminal convictions. And I'll be going back to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 with tons of new fresh evidence I obtained during disclosure in my case Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, which I won at the end of 2024, and in 2025 MGN issued me a private letter of apology, apologising for the intrusion into my privacy and the unlawful actions of the journalist in the formulation of that 1998 sting story. The full story can be seen with evidence and facts at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. Let's address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is it's the 20th of January as I make this video. I'm in London. I've just been to the courts and stuff for the filming, you'll see. Prince Harry's currently got a case against the Daily Mail running in the Royal Courts of Justice, and you may or may not be aware, I was one of the last 3 people with Prince Harry left standing and Lord Tom Watson in Trans 4 of the MITVille, the mobile telephone voicemail interception litigation that took place last year against Murdoch's newsgroup newspapers. All of us won ultimately. I got tons of evidence in that, and I'll be taking it to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on the 3rd of February 2026 at 10:30 AM as per the details on unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. So if you follow the links on unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com and circusthemind.net, you'll see that it turns out the Royal Mint have confirmed to me that the police and CPS never sent them any of the so-called alleged counterfeit coins in my 1998-1999 fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood related what I now know to be a malicious prosecution, miscarriage of justice and unsafe convictions, which is why I'm going back to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026. There wasn't even any proof that the coins were fake. They could have been real all the time, but in any event, there was no proof of the chain of evidence. He kept hold of them for a total of 17 and 10 days respectively. He could have switched the coins. Why did they take his word for it? The police and CPS knew in 1994 he couldn't be trusted. Go and look at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com for more. Back in 1998, I regularly used to use these things, telephone boxes, to call my landline phone at home and then use as a code to access my landline answer machine messages, which is one of the things that I believe was used against me, along with phone hacking, but also getting into my landline messages as well by the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood. That's some of the assertions that were made in Alex Smith versus Newsgroup newspapers, which I won, and evidence from that I'm taking with me to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 to help clear my name. Full details are at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. And here I am at Buckingham Palace. This represents the fact that Rupert Murdoch's fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood did various sting entrapments on members of the royal family. Indeed, recently, and by recently I mean in 2022, I filed a claim against Newsgroup newspapers on the 30th of September 2022, Alex Smith versus MGN. It turned out that I was one of the last 3 people standing in Trans 4 of the MITVille, the mobile telephone voicemail interception litigation. There was me, there was Lord Tom Watson, the former Labour MP, and there was the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, who is currently taking the Daily Mail to court for phone hacking and other unlawful activities. Well, I was a witness for the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, in his case against Rupert Murdoch's Newsgroup newspapers, which he won, Lord Tom Watson won, and I won. Unfortunately, we won in a manner where MGN weaponised a Part 36 offer to silence us and keep our evidence against them out of court. Much of that evidence can be seen on my website, unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com, and I'll be taking a whole bunch of it that I got during disclosure to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026. Hi, my name's Alex Smith by birth. I'm better known as Jonathan Royle, hypnotist and magicalguru.com. I'm just here at the Rolls building to draw a line under the legal proceedings I took against Newsgroup newspapers, namely Alex Smith versus Newsgroup newspapers. It was filed on the 30th of September 2022. Newsgroup weaponised a Part 36 offer in December 2024, but then in March 25 they issued me a private letter of apology for the dishonest actions and privacy intrusion by their journalist at the News of the World. Disclosure in that case gave me tons of fresh evidence, videos, audios, documents, receipts that prove beyond any reasonable doubt my criminal convictions caused by that fabricated News of the World article are unsafe, and that is why I'll be returning to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 with that fresh evidence to finally expose the dishonesty of the fake Sheikh and to clear my name. unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. Hey, it's Alex Smith here, also known as Johnson Royle Hypnotist. Check out unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. It's relevant because on the 3rd of February 2026, I'm off to the Criminal Cases Review Commission in Birmingham with tons of fresh evidence I obtained in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers. Along the way, my research and disclosures and other stuff that I've been given and found have shown that the Metropolitan Police, Greater Manchester Police and the Crown Prosecution Service all failed seriously in their disclosure duties to me in 1998 and 1999, because 1996 SEPA rules say they should have told me and other victims about the collapsed cases that collapsed due to the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood's perjurious lies and tainted evidence. They didn't, and so my convictions are unsafe. It was a malicious prosecution. unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. Hey there, I'm at the Royal Court for Justice. It's the 20th of January 2026, and inside there right now are the claimants who are making their claims against the Daily Mail newspaper for things such as phone hacking and unlawful information gathering techniques. My name by birth is Alex William Smith. I'm better known as Jonathan Royle Hypnotist, and on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 I'm returning to the Criminal Cases Review Commission in Birmingham with all the evidence that was disclosed to me in my legal claim Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers. I was one of the last 3 people standing in the Midville Transfer against Murdoch's NGN, alongside Prince Harry, who I gave witness statements to, and Lord Tom Watson, because all 3 of us were victims of the fake Sheik. With that evidence, I intend to clear my name of the CCRC. Check out unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. Let's address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is that I'm innocent. My convictions for delivery of counterfeit coins are unsafe, and I'll be proving that with the tons of fresh evidence I'm taking to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 at 10:30 a.m. Full details are on unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. So, it's December 2025, and the real question is, truly, will the UK Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, meet with Murdoch's media calls miscarriage of justice victim, Alex Smith, that's me, aka Jonathan Royle Hypnotist? Because Keir Starmer used to be involved as the Director of Public Prosecutions at the Crown Prosecution Service, and surely he knew that the police and the Crown Prosecution Service both communicated with each other in 1994 and stated that Mazher Mahmood should never ever be relied upon as a witness of truth ever again. So why did it take until the collapse of the Talisa trial in 2014 for them to stop doing exactly that? 15th of December 2025, Keir Starmer agreed during a liaison committee meeting to meet with victims of media abuse, as you'll see in the short clip that follows. Hopefully, I've tagged him all over social media. That will allow me to meet with him and ask, why did the CPS continue to charge people and convict people based on Mahmood's perjurious lies that the police and CPS both knew about in 1994 and said he could not and should not ever be relied upon as a witness of truth? Why did that go on, leading to my unsafe convictions as per unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com and circusofthemind.net, links above or below this video.
There's widespread support for the Hillsborough Bill, not least because it offers equality of arms between victims and the state in addressing unlawful state action. Doesn't the same inequality exist between the press and those who, in Jerry McCann's words, are monstered by them? But 13 years after the Leveson Review of Press Ethics, most newspapers are not subject to independent regulation, and there is no low-cost way to challenge media errors. Last week, over 30 victims of press intrusion, including Christine Flack, Kate and Jerry McCann, and Margaret Aspinall, whom you know, and whose son James died at Hillsborough, wrote to you to ask you to meet them and discuss their experiences. Will you meet them?
Yes, of course.
Late November 2025, veteran journalists Roy Greenslade and Paddy French released this book, Rogue, The Rise and Fall of Mazher Fake Sheikh Mahmood. Within it, they make the case that a large number of criminal convictions secured on the basis of stories run by the fake sheikh are unsafe. And as one of Mahmood's victims, I can tell you that's definitely the case. However, I found this very eye-opening because it turns out that well over a dozen cases, possibly more that we don't know about yet, relying on Mahmood's evidence, collapsed due to his perjurious lies, dishonesty and arguably illegal techniques. That is why, as illustrated at circusofthemind.net and unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com, I say that my 2 convictions for delivery of counterfeit coins are unsafe. Watch and learn why this is important. The reason it's important is it's the bigger picture. It's not just me. There's other people who've got unsafe convictions because of this serial perjurer. In fact, as illustrated in my 2 books, Imposter, Rupert Murdoch's Fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood Exposed, both of which are available from my website circusofthemind.net and magicalguru.com, I have so much evidence of Mahmood's dishonesty, long-term perjury, long-term illegal actions, that it really does beg the question, when the evidence shows the police and CPS knew in 1994 that he could not and should not ever be trusted as a witness of truth ever again, why did it take until the collapse of the Tilisa Kontavlos drug trial in 2014 for them to stop charging people based on his lies and fabricated nonsense stories? Why, oh why? In the footage that follows, I'm going to take you on a whistle-stop tour of Greater Manchester to relevant sites that led up to and were involved and connected to me getting 2, I would now argue, unsafe criminal convictions for delivery of counterfeit coins, albeit there's no proof that they were ever counterfeit coins, as you'll discover as we go along. This is a true life story that is stranger than fiction, and yet every single word of it's entirely true and backed by court-documented evidence that you can see at circusofthemind.net and the various links that you will find there. Bear with me, because at the end of this video I'll also share some clips with you from BBC Newsnight and some other things that further show why there needs to be a Leveson inquiry part 2 urgently. Because Sir Brian Leveson himself said that part 2, the scope of it, should be extended. It was meant to look at police connections to the media and official connections to the media and potential corruption and cover-ups and such like. But in his letter to the Department of Culture, Media and Sport and the government, when they asked whether it should go ahead, he said, yes, it should. Matt Hancock lied in Parliament and gave the impression that that wasn't what was said. But the truth is, he did say it should go ahead. And more so, he said that it should also be looked at in closer detail, the criminality surrounding Mazher Mahmood. Behind me, you can see what is now called the Mercure Hotel. It's actually known as the Piccadilly Hotel in central Manchester, and that is the site, the location where I met on several occasions with Rupert Murdoch's fake sheikh Mazher Mahmood, where he was posing as a businessman, Perry Khan, who said his rich oil sheikh boss ran a television station and film production company in Saudi Arabia or Dubai, I can't remember which. And he offered me the earth, much like he did with Tilisa Kontavlos. I was offered lucrative television presenting jobs, and all I had to do was apparently go and pick up some alleged counterfeit coins Incidentally, these coins were never proven to be anything other than real. Indeed, the Royal Mint, as illustrated at circusofthemind.net and unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com, have confirmed that they still have records from the time period in question, namely April 1998, when Mahmood's sting story took place, and yet they have no records of ever forensically testing any coins connected to my name, Mahmood, or anything sent to them by the CPS related to the news of the world. They were never forensically tested. But then again, even if they had, it wouldn't have mattered, because there was no proof of the chain of evidence of those coins, because 3 of the coins on the first meeting were definitely genuine from my pocket, and then the other 1,000 coins, which were only obtained because I was forced and manipulated and intimidated into it with veiled threats and stuff, and Mahmood's team told me where to get them from, and they supplied the money up front. In other words, they were all parts of the supply chain, just as they were in the Emma Morgan drugs case, details of which you can find all over the internet. The fact is this: my convictions are unsafe, as you can see at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. But that's the place where it all took place, and that's the place where Mahmood, rather than saying goodbye to the 2 female escorts that I ordered to go to his hotel for him, which I ordered from a local massage parlour. I didn't even know them, so there's no way you could even accuse me of being a pimp. So the way he wrote it up was itself incorrect, untrue, and completely misleading, with no basis in reality. But the evidence that's come out in disclosure during Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers indicates that Mahmood actually did meet up with those female escorts again at this hotel, Manchester Piccadilly, and had sexual relations with them. In any event, I've got video footage of him being inappropriate with them, touching their breast unnecessarily, no need to, and his colleague Comrade Brown licking cream off their breast. Again, absolutely no need to. They could have refused to, but hey, why be ethical when you can be an ethical manipulative journalist, as Mahmood most certainly was and is? Go to unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com or circusofthemind.net for more. Behind me is the Flying Horse Hotel on Packer Street in Rochdale Town Centre. It's important to my story because for the majority of the 1990s, many members of Rochdale Police and the CID at Rochdale, the detectives, will come in and drink on a Friday afternoon. And indeed, it was speaking to some of those officers that I found out about the prices of drugs and other things, by both speaking to them and also looking at reports in Manchester Evening News about people who'd recently been convicted. So I'd have information for my patter story, my fabricated story, to play my intended prank on Mahmood, although the joke was on me in the end, because it was fully his intention. He was 50 steps ahead of me and manipulated things as mentioned in this video. But also at the Flying Horse here in Rochdale is where I met Detective Inspector Martin Jeffs, now retired, but he was very helpful because he helped put me in touch in 2024 with one of the officers who originally interviewed and arrested me, namely DC Ian Alford. And I was in communication. He rang me, did Ian Alford, and then we communicated via email for a short while, and then he went quiet. And over a period of many months, I finally got him to contact me back again, and suddenly out of the blue, after previously telling me that I needed to look into things like SEPA, and the fact that the police and Crown Prosecution Service had disclosure duties, and that based on what I now know from disclosure in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, both the police and, more importantly, the Crown Prosecution Service failed massively in their disclosure duties. But that would be important to my new appeal that's been submitted on the 3rd of February 2026 at the Criminal Cases Review Commission in Birmingham. But then suddenly he went quiet. Eventually I got him to contact me back, and he said he needed to speak to Greater Manchester Police's legal department. Suddenly gone from being incredibly helpful to saying he needed to speak to their legal department first. And then it was radio silence, and I've heard nothing since. I mentioned this in my books Imposter, Rupert Murdoch's fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood exposed volumes 1 and 2, available on my website, circusofthemind.net. Behind me is Rochdale police station, which is where I was ultimately questioned in relation to the 1998 News of the World fabricated story which alleged that I was a drug dealing, counterfeit money supplying, Uzi gun salesman, pimp and pornographer. Absolute science fiction nonsense. On Sunday the 12th of April 1998, when Mahmood's fabricated nonsense Mickey Mouse story appeared, I attended at Rochdale Police Station voluntarily, went in with a copy of the paper and said, look at this, it says I'm a drug dealing, counterfeit money supplying, Uzi gun salesman, pimp and pornographer, but it's all complete nonsense, would you like to interview me? And their answer was, no, we've had no reports of a crime. I said, well, the alleged crimes are printed in the paper here. They said, we're not interested. And so it was. It was not until the following Sunday, another week later, another 7 days, which will be the 19th of April 1998, that the fake Sheik delivered the alleged counterfeit coins and his apparent evidence to Rochdale Police Station. And then following that, the following week, I was arrested under caution, where I gave a full on-record interview. I was interviewed by DC Lee McCrory and DC Ian Elford. I was shown with my solicitor David Feingold a video cassette that, as best as I recall, was less than 20 minutes in duration, containing merely edited highlights of the various meetings with Mahmood. At no point was I ever disclosed the full videotapes and audio tapes of all the meetings until I got disclosure and discovery in my case Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers that I filed on the 30th of September 2022 and was concluded in my favour in December 2024. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. Also, the evidence now shows that the alleged counterfeit coins were never forensically tested. You see, all I ever got manipulated and tricked and intimidated and threatened into doing was going and collecting some alleged counterfeit coins from a place that I was told the location of by one of Mahmood's associates, my former publicist, who it turns out was paid thousands of pounds to manipulate me and stitch me up, using money that they gave me up front. Now, it's true to say, as shown on circusofthemind.net in my documents there, that News Group newspapers did, in their defence to my claimant's specific particulars of claim in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, they did deny that Mahmood ever gave me the money up front. However, the videos that were disclosed to me in that case prove beyond any reasonable doubt, because it's on video, Mahmood giving me the money up front and also unnecessarily getting me tipsy by enforcing me to have drinks and also delaying me so that he can ensure that the person that I've got to pick the coins up from is at the venue that I've been told to go to by one of Mahmood's associates. It's all obvious on the videos that have now been disclosed to me, which will form part of my fresh evidence that's going to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026. It's also now clear that Mahmood and his associates never told the police, and therefore the Crown Prosecution Service were never informed either, they never told the police that they had no prima facie evidence. There was no proof of me doing anything wrong in advance. So they had no journalistic, public interest reason to do their story. Secondly, as evidence I now have that will be going to the CCRC shows, they never, because they had no public interest journalism defence, they should not legally have been making secret videos or audios. But in any event, they did not disclose these to the police or CPS, because if they had, then the police and CPS would have seen that Mazher Mahmood fondled the breasts of one of the lady escorts that went to his hotel room, and they would have seen that his assistant, Comrade Brown, licked cream off the breast of one of the ladies that went to the hotel room, none of which was appropriate journalism. They would have also seen that they purposely got me inebriated. They would have also seen that drinks were handled by Mahmood's associates in a manner that gave them the opportunity to drug the drinks, as I assert in my claimant specific particulars of claim in Alex Smith versus Newsgroup newspapers that you can see on circusofthemind.net. Had they been totally truthful and honest, they would have also then, having seen those videos, seen that he purposely delayed me, gave me the money up front to be able to go and get the coins, and then delayed me so I wouldn't leave because I'd arrived early, so they could ensure that their person, as I assert, their man, their associate, would be at the venue to hand me the alleged counterfeit coins. Or I say alleged because the Royal Mint have confirmed they were never ever forensically tested. So there's no proof they're anything other than genuine. It really is stranger than fiction. Also, Mahmood would never have told the police, and therefore the CPS never knew, the very real fact that he had no journalistic prima facie, as I've already said, no upfront evidence, no source. Now, journalistically, he did not have to reveal his source, which was good for him because he didn't have one, or the closest he had was me sending anonymous tip-offs to the News of the World with my, well, not my main mobile number on it, but a pay-as-you-go SIM card number that I bought on it for the purposes of trying to engineer my media prank against the fake Sheik. The documents that prove this have been disclosed to me from the Enfield archives of Newsgroup newspapers. In my case, Alex Smith versus Newsgroup newspapers, that was settled in my favour in December 2024, for which I got a written letter of apology from Newsgroup newspapers in March 2025, and which gave me hours of video, hours of audio, documents, photographs, receipts galore to show that private investigators, illegal surveillance, manipulation behind the scenes was done before, during and after, and even during the legal process by Mahmood and his team. This was a purposeful, vindictive entrapment, and because of his perjurious lies to the police and lack of disclosure of the various things I mentioned to the police and CPS, it led to a malicious prosecution, which also, due to non-disclosure by the police and CPS, because they knew back in 1994 that Mahmood could not and should not ever be trusted as a witness of truth, as is proven by stuff mentioned in documents on circusofthemind.net, and is also mentioned in my books, and by the wonderful article you can see on circusofthemind.net, Mahmood's Tainted Evidence, and Framed by Paddy French. There were numerous cases collapsed before I was charged in 1998 and before I was convicted in 1999. Numerous cases collapsed because of Mahmood's dishonesties and perjurious lies. And in 1994, the police and CPS wrote to each other and said he could not and should not ever be relied upon as a witness of truth. None of these were ever disclosed to me. And then there were numerous cases collapsed after my case went to court, all leading up and before the Talisa case collapsed in 2014, which is when they finally stopped using Mahmood as a witness of truth, and all the various cases that were in the works at that time were dropped because they said they couldn't rely on him any further. The truth is they knew they couldn't rely on him in 1994. Material disclosure failures, massive, by the police and CPS, led to me being wrongfully convicted. And as you can see on the site unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com and circusofthemind.net, I'll be taking on my fresh evidence to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 at 10:30 AM. And just before I leave Rochdale Police Station, let's also remember that Mahmood never told the police or CPS that he was using unlawful information gathering, and that he used phone hacking, which is now confirmed by the receipts I've got and the witness statement that I've got from Glenn Mulcair, who worked for LRA and said that he's most likely the person who actually hacked my phone on Mahmood's instructions via Greg Miskew, who also gave me a statement saying that such took place. And of course Mahmood also would never have told the police and CPS that he drugged my drinks, although I felt the effects of that. Numerous other people have asserted it, and I now have a witness statement from Steve Grayson, who used to work with Mahmood, stating that he witnessed Mahmood drug people's drinks in the course of stings, and you can see there's links to that stuff at circusofthemind.net. However you look at it, it was a malicious prosecution built on perjurious lies, illegal activity, and should never have gone to court. My convictions are unsafe. Just when you think I finished at Rochdale Police Station, I suddenly remember one final thing when it starts raining. But hey, bear with me. So, in the course of his entrapment, manipulation and sting on me, the fake Sheik met with me on the 1st of April and Thursday the 2nd of April 1998, and then again on Thursday the 9th of April 1998. That's important because on the 2nd of April he asked to see samples of counterfeit coins. I obviously didn't have any because I didn't know where to get them from at that stage, and so I just gave him 3 genuine coins from my pocket, which can be seen on the videos that have been disclosed to me in the mobile telephone voicemail interception litigation, the Mittville, in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers. And then on the 9th of April, by then, I'd been manipulated and intimidated into agreeing to go and pick up some coins from the source that was told to me by my former publicist, who was paid thousands by Mahmood to manipulate me into doing this, using money that was given to me up front by Mahmood, and they delayed me in the hotel and got me inebriated to make sure I didn't show up to the venue too early, because they were all elements of the supply chain. But here's the thing. Whether the coins were real or not, the Royal Mint have no records of checking them. The chain of evidence is ridiculous. There isn't one. Mahmood did not take anything to Rochdale Police Station until 1 week, a full week after the story appeared, which appeared on Sunday the 12th of April 1998. He didn't go until Sunday the 19th of April, which means that he had in his possession the 3 coins that were genuine for 17 days until he handed them over to the police, and the alleged 1,000 coins that the story said were fake he had in his possession for a full 10 days before handing to the police. There's no proof he gave the same coins to the police that I ever handled either. And what's more disturbing is that's 3 coins and 1,000 is 1,003, and yet various paperwork from the courts, the police and all over the place that's still available and will be given to the CCRC on the 3rd of February 2026 as per unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com and circusofthemind.net make mention of 996 and 3 coins, which is 999, or 997 and 3 coins, which is 1,000. There's missing coins. Why are they missing? Well, I reckon that's because Mahmood realised the 3 coins I gave him on that first occasion were genuine, because it was his team that had to end up telling me where to get them from and manipulate me behind the scenes, and they had to then decide to give me the money up front to be able to make it happen and manipulate me into doing something I never actually wanted to do, but ended up only doing because I figured I'd be covered by journalistic licence, and I'd be able to say, look, I knew who I was dealing with, but sadly I was not afforded that by the CPS or the police, and I think that's because they were still involved in a cover-up, not my words, but the words of my former solicitor, Siobhan Egan, at Lewis and Adis Law, that you can see in the clip from Newsnight later in this video. The truth is, under the Forgery and Counterfeiting Act 1981, Mahmood had no legal or lawful reason, journalism doesn't cut it, for keeping hold of those coins for 17 and 10 days respectively. His only real argument could have been that the coins that he got, he kept hold of until the story appeared, because in previous times he'd had issues in courts and judges had said that he should have handed stuff over in advance, and then, well, he ended up keeping hold of stuff until the story appeared. Fine, that maybe could have been a legal argument, but to then keep hold of it for another full week after that, however you look at it, why didn't he get charged with that? In a moment, you're about to see me reveal some facts while stood outside Manchester Crown Court. Unfortunately, it seems that my functional neurological disorder was playing up. I thought I said the right thing, but it turns out that although my brain was telling me that I was stating the very real, easy to check facts, that I pled not guilty, because I was not guilty of anything, except perhaps stupidity, thinking I could get one over and expose dishonesty of the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood, because at the time I did not know about phone hacking and all the other illegal things, dishonest things that he was doing, which should have been semi-irrelevant anyway, because an honest journalist or an ethical one would have walked away from a story when they realised there was no story, when they realised there was no prima facie evidence, no proof of wrongdoing in advance. But no, when they wanted to cover up the fact that they were dishonest and don't want people to go and start digging and looking, because if they had done, then maybe they would have found out back then they were using unlawful information gathering, phone hacking, entrapment, drugging drinks, being all areas of the supply chain and a whole bunch of other things that we now know to be true because the evidence is now available. But it wasn't back then. So, to be clear, in all the clips that follow, I should be saying, and consciously in my head, I am saying the fact that I pled not guilty until the first day of trial. And then I only changed my plea to guilty with mitigating circumstances because I'd been led to believe that Mahmood was relying on journalistic licence to not have to reveal his sources, which was lucky for him because he didn't have any. His apparent source was me, as you'll see in this video, and the information at circusofthemind.net and unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com. So to be clear, I pled not guilty from day one. I continued pleading not guilty at every stage of the court hearings until the very first day of trial, when I only changed my plea from not guilty to guilty with mitigating circumstances when I was given some bad advice in relation to an entrapment defence, and also it was said that Mahmood would not have to reveal his sources. And remember, back then, I also didn't know that Mahmood had broken the law in many ways in his fabricated nonsense story about me. Otherwise, I would never, ever have changed the plea. And if the Crown Prosecution Service and or the police had disclosed to me, as they should have done under CIPA rules, the dishonesty they'd already uncovered of Mahmood, I would never have changed my plea either. My convictions are unsafe. Hey there, yes, it's me back again. It's Manchester mime magician Alex Smith, better known as celebrity hypnotist Jonathan Royle of magicalguru.com, and here I am at Manchester Minishool Street, Crown Court, where I first appeared on the 1st of February 1999. That was the first day of my intended trial, where I changed my plea from guilty to not guilty. I only ever changed that plea from guilty to not guilty with mitigating circumstances because basically I was told that Rupert Murdoch's fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood could rely on journalistic privilege so that he did not need to reveal who his sources were, because in order to do covert filming and audio recording and other things that otherwise may be deemed as entrapment or unlawful or illegal surveillance, one has to have a public interest journalism defence, and to have that he would have to have prima facie evidence of wrongdoing. In other words, some kind of evidence that wrongdoing had been taking place in advance at my hands, where in fact he had none of this for reasons I'll mention in a moment, and because he didn't have to reveal his sources, it never came to light that the source was me. As evidence that's now been disclosed in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers that I filed on the 30th of September 2022, and which News Group newspapers settled in late 2024. During that I got videos, audios, documents, photographs, receipts, excuse the tram going by, and a whole bunch of other evidence that shows that I was the source. This was an intended media prank. However, the fake Sheikh had other ideas, and little did I know that he used such unlawful and illegal techniques and phone hacking and other things. Hence, in the end, he stitched me up. Ironically, my intention was to expose what I'd heard rumours about, that namely Mahmood would write up stories in a manner that distorted the reality of what had really taken place. And that was it. It was my intention just to call some escorts from the local massage parlour, not be at the hotel when they arrived, which is exactly what happened, and therefore I would not have broken any laws, but I had it suggested to me that he would write it up as though as some kind of big time pimp, which would be completely removed from reality, and then I could go to another newspaper and expose the fact that he wrote things up in a distorted, untrue, sensationalist manner. However, that of course did not go to plan, because they were, unbeknownst to me, hacking my phone, using unlawful surveillance, having me followed. They had my former publicist on the payroll to socially engineer me, and they decided they did not want any negative publicity towards them, showing that they distorted stories. So instead they would engineer and manipulate things and use behind the scenes intimidation and threats and every trick in the book in order to manipulate me into doing something that could land me in jail. During disclosure in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, as filed on the 30th of September 2022 and settled by a Part 36 offer being weaponised by News Group newspapers to effectively silence me and keep my evidence out of court, they paid me off, so to speak, at the end of 2024, and then in early 2025 issued me with a private letter of apology for the intrusion into my privacy and the unlawful illegal actions used by Mahmood and his team in that 1998 sting story that led to me being here on the 1st of February 99, where I changed my plea from guilty, from not guilty to guilty with mitigating circumstances, and then I was back here on the 1st of March 1999 for sentencing, which was rather interesting in itself, because as documented in the Shropshire Star, Hayward Advertiser, Rochdale Observer, and most notably the Manchester Evening News, the judge made it quite clear that he accepted that this was not a usual case. It was an out of the ordinary case, that my intention was a publicity prank, and that because of that he limited the sentence and gave a reduced sentence. However, those two sentences for delivery of counterfeit coins to another under the Forgery and Counterfeiting Act 1981 are arguably unsafe, and I shall be going back to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday the 3rd of February 2026 with my massive bundle of new fresh evidence, including video recordings, audio recordings, photographs, receipts, documents and evidence galore that my convictions are unsafe, evidence that was disclosed to me in my case Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, which I filed, as I say, on the 30th of September 2022 against Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers, and which they settled with me in December 2024 before issuing me a private letter of apology in March 2025. Those things were never disclosed to the police. So arguably the fake Sheik and Murdoch's newspapers were involved in engineering a malicious prosecution. Those things were never disclosed to the Crown Prosecution Service, and consequently those things that have now come to light prove my convictions unsafe. It's also somewhat an ironic situation that Mahmood was afforded journalistic privilege so that he did not have to reveal who his sources were, which is just as well for him, because he didn't have any sources, he did not have any prima facie evidence of wrongdoing, which would then have entitled him under public interest journalism laws and defences to do covert filming and to use entrapment manipulation techniques. He didn't have any of that, as the stuff disclosed in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers proves, which is among the fresh evidence that will be going to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on the 3rd of February 2026. However, the judge in my case here at this court, as documented by the Manchester Evening News, clearly accepted that I knew who Mahmood was, that it was my conscious intention that it was a publicity prank, is the terminology that the judge used, and that I didn't have criminal intentions. I should have been afforded the journalistic privilege of going and picking those coins up that I was manipulated into, but unfortunately I wasn't. Had I been afforded that, tram again, then this case would never have got to court. It should never have got to court. If the videos and the audios had been fully disclosed to the police and the CPS that I've now got in my possession from disclosure in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, this case would never have gone to court. Further reasons why I say my convictions are unsafe, as explained at unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com, and also explained in more detail at circusofthemind.net. Behind me is what they call, or is dubbed, a sweatbox. I discovered that when I was taken by one from Manchester Crown Court on the 1st of March 1999 to Manchester's tough Strangeways prison, where I spent a large majority of my sentence for delivery of counterfeit coins. 2 convictions that are now unsafe, and I have the evidence, fresh evidence and proof of that, thanks to what was disclosed to me in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers, my phone hacking case that took place as part of the mobile telephone voicemail interception litigation that I filed on the 30th of September 2022 and was settled at the end of 2024. I shall be going to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on the 3rd of February 2026 to file my massive bundle of fresh evidence that my convictions, my fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood related convictions, are unsafe. I should never have been sent to Strangeways prison, or indeed any prison. In fact, the truth is, with the evidence that's come to light, it's arguable that I should never have been charged, because there were covert videos for which Mahmood had no legal right to be filming, because he had no prima facie evidence in advance of wrongdoing by me. Indeed, I was the source, as the discovery and fresh evidence proves. So there we have it. It was one of these that took me from Manchester Crown Court to Strangeways back on the 1st of March 1999, where, as the judge stated, as was documented by Manchester Evening News, this was not an ordinary case, and that is why he'd limited the sentence. Sadly, though, I was not afforded journalistic licence. Perhaps I would have been if I'd not been forced and manipulated into changing my plea from guilty, rather from not guilty to guilty, which did not take place until the first day of trial for reasons of me being wrongly advised that entrapment defence wouldn't work. Well, it most certainly would have done if I'd have all the evidence then that I now have. This is where people would come to visit me when I was inside. During my time at Manchester's tough Strangeways prison, I was prisoner Smith, DW4664. Strangeways, Manchester. You can see it behind me. It covers a lot of ground, and it comprises both old and now new buildings as well. Despite the fabricated lies of the fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood in the News of the World that appeared in April 1998, leading to me being convicted, wrongfully convicted, on the 1st of March 1999, and sending me here, Strangeways in Manchester, where I spent most of my time because prisons were overcrowded. Indeed, I spent most of it on the induction wing around murderers, drug addicts, rapists and really dangerous people. I'm glad to say that despite the News of the World falsely accusing me of being a drug dealing, counterfeit money supplying, Uzi gun salesman, pimp and pornographer, none of which is or ever has been true, that all I ever got done for was delivery of some counterfeit coins, which I went and picked up from a source which had been revealed to me by my former publicist, who was on the payroll for Mahmood, and I have the receipts now to prove that he was on the payroll and paid thousands to stitch me up and manipulate me. I also received behind-the-scenes intimidation and threats, manipulating me into doing something I did not want to do, and it would have only happened if they gave me the money up front to actually go and get the coins. Something that, incidentally, newsgroup newspapers denied ever took place in their defence to my claim, Alex Smith versus newsgroup newspapers, filed on the 30th of September 2022, and yet they settled with me in late 2024 and in early 25 gave me a letter of apology, because after discovery and disclosure, videos came out that had been secretly filmed proving beyond any reasonable doubt that Mahmood did give me the money up front and encourage me to go and pick up the coins. In other words, they were every part of the supply chain. Anyway, fortunately, thanks to what the governor and the prison officers at Strangeways said, and then also the prison officer who covered my last few weeks when I was transferred to Kirkham, I was considered to be an exemplary prisoner, which is really no surprise when you consider that prior to being sent here and wrongfully convicted, I'd never had any run-ins with the police at all, and I've never had any since. Never been cautioned, charged, convicted of anything before or after the fake Sheik's, I would argue, malicious prosecution, which is why I'm going back to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on the 3rd of February 2026 to submit my fresh evidence. As I say, thanks to the prison officers and the governors of Manchester Strangeways and also at Kirkham, where I spent the last couple of weeks of my sentence back in 1999, I was considered an exemplary prisoner, and so I was one of the first ever people to trial home detention curfew, HDC, so-called electronic tagging. Also interestingly, the day I arrived at Strangeways, the Manchester Evening News the next day, the edition of it that covered the fact that I'd been convicted, and the judge said that this was no ordinary case and that he accepted I thought it was a media prank, but that obviously what I thought wasn't what took place, and I didn't realise the gravity of that at the time, because now I have the evidence that shows they were using unlawful information gathering, unlawful surveillance, manipulation techniques behind the scenes, paying my publicist, and a whole bunch of other things that are considered unlawful and illegal. That's why I'll be going back to the CCRC on the 2nd of February 2026. Interestingly, when that Manchester Evening News article came out, rather than removing it as they used to do, remove articles about people who are in, so that people on the wing didn't find out what you were in for, so you could lie if you wanted to or mislead, as I'm sure some of them no doubt did, certainly on the induction wing. No, that article was left in, and I think that was done on purpose so people could see that the judge had said it was no ordinary case and that it was a media prank. Well, there we have him, Mr. Mazher Mahmood, the fake Sheik of the News of the World and the Sun on Sunday. Just a few interesting visual things here that I want to run past you. This was the article from the March the 2nd, 1999, as you can see in the top left corner. And this was the day after, Monday the 1st of March 99, which is when, following what I now know to be bad advice, I changed my plea from not guilty to guilty. But had I been aware of all the stuff that's not been disclosed by the CPS at any time, and mentioned in my other videos at circusofthemind.net, that would never have happened. But as you can see, if you look at this, you knew they would not be circulated publicly. And it's not an ordinary case. It was accepted by all parties that I knew who Mahmood was. And I thought at the time I'd engineered it all, but it's now come to light thanks to phone hacking and unlawful information gathering that actually the whole situation was engineered one step ahead. It's complicated, but it's all explained at circusofthemind.net. Now, this is interesting because this is the indictment. And as you can see there, count one, on the 2nd day of April 1998, apparently delivered £3 coins. Well, they're ones I took from my pocket, and the video would show I happened to have on me when I was asked if I could get hold of such. And
I took out what I had in my pocket and I found I had 3 genuine pound coins there. I did, and I handed them over, which is why he said, Mahmood, these are the best I've ever seen. That'd be because they were completely bona fide genuine. And count 2, which takes place on the 9th day of April, 1998. That's a week later exactly. Okay. It says, delivered 997 coins. Hang on a minute. That's odd, because on the 9th of April, they told me where to go and get 1,000 coins. And the evidence now points to them having supplied those 1,000 coins. They certainly supplied the money and the information of where to get them. And they were only in my possession while picking them up from the place they told me to get them from, using the money that they gave me. And then they were immediately given to Mahmood. So they were never in public circulation. And I had them for about an hour, a couple of hours at tops. But 1,000 plus 3 would be 1,003. Now, that's the correct number there, 3, because there were 3 genuine pound coins from my pocket. But on this day, as the video would show, I had been asked to acquire 1,000 coins and told where to get 1,000 coins. And as far as I was aware, because I didn't count them, I'd got 1,000 coins. So why the heck we have 997 there? No idea. Especially when, look at this. Inconsistencies again. This was a document I've acquired from the police. I did freedom of information to the police, the CPS, and whatnot. And here they make reference to delivery of 3 coins on the 2nd of April, but now apparently it's delivery of 996, not 997 on the 9th of April. So the other one said 997 and 3 at the first event, which would make 1,000 in total. This says 996 plus 3, which would make 999. Neither of them are right, because on the 2nd I just gave 3 coins from my own pocket, which were definitely genuine. And on the second occasion, I was under the impression I picked up 1,000 coins from where they told me to, using the money that they gave me, which would be 1,000 plus 3 is 1,003, which is somewhat slightly bizarre. Now, as you'll see here, on the 2nd of the 9th, 98, an indictment was signed containing a single count of delivering counterfeit currency, namely 1,000 coins, on the 9th of the 4th. Well, on the 9th of the 4th, I did collect what I believe to be 1,000 coins, so that is correct. Okay, and it should say that there as well, but it doesn't. And those coins may or may not have been real. We don't know, because the evidence now seems to show that the Royal Mint never checked them and they were never sent for validation. And the fact is that they were picked up from the place I was told to by Mazher Mahmood's associates, using the money that they supplied on the 9th of the 4th, 1998, which was a Thursday. But they were not, the article didn't appear until Sunday, the 12th of April, 98, and they did not give the coins or their alleged evidence, splice tapes and all this kind of stuff, to the police until a week later. So they were in Mahmood's possession for nearly 10 days, and there's no record of chain of evidence. So there's no proof that the coins he gave to the police anyway are the same ones that were picked up. It's complete farcical, and you think, well, they couldn't have been that lackadaisical, could they? But looking at these documents, you can see on the other one, they were saying it was 3 coins on the first event and 997 on the second. But then here they say it's 3 coins and 996. But here they get it correctly that on the reason there was an indictment is because originally they were only going to charge me for the 9th of April 1998 for the 1,000 coins, the coins that were in question, because they fully believed me that the 3 coins on the 2nd of April were just taken from my pocket and were genuine coins. However, somewhere down the line, which I only became aware of when I did these freedom of information requests, they suddenly decided they were going to split it into 2 charges. But rather than going 3 and 1,000, which you would have thought it would have been, the other document shows 3 and then 997, and this one shows 3 then 996. This here says that on the 1st of February, I pleaded guilty. I didn't. As is reported by the Manchester Evening News article of the 2nd of March 1999, I changed my plea that day on the which was March the 1st, because this is reporting the day after the court event. And that was because of the advice that apparently my entrapment defence wouldn't have worked, which we now know did work for other people and would likely have worked for me, but certainly would have done had I been disclosed the information that the police and CPS had. I only ever got sent one of these crime report things, and that's saying that a crime took place on Thursday the 9th of April 1998 at the Piccadilly Hotel. And that's the only one of those I got sent when I did my police and CPS and courts freedom of information request. So apparently there's only one crime report record, as it were. Which, we look at this is ARCO, subject access request, which is the police computer. And we look at this first bit and you see that there's one offence there on the 9th of April 98, happened at 5 o'clock PM at Jarvis Piccadilly Hotel, which was delivery of counterfeit coin to another, and this led to 6 months and forfeiture of the coins, which is bizarre, because how could the coins have been confiscated from me when I handed them to Mahmood on the 9th of April 98 and never saw them or touched them ever again? So that in itself is bizarre. And so, as you can see there, that was it. 1 imprisonment, 2 confiscated the coins. Well, they didn't, not from me. Mahmood had them, he handed them in. There was no confiscation gone on. And they said that the second event took place, get this, the 9th of April 98 at 5 o'clock at the Piccadilly Hotel. Hang on a minute. How can 2 identical offences of delivery of counterfeit coin to another take place, both at 5 o'clock PM, both at the same location, on the same day, at the same time? Doesn't make sense, does it? It's a comedy of errors and paperwork errors, which further illustrates to me this fact that it's highly likely that the CPS never did send the coins to the Royal Mint. Hence, the Royal Mint sent me this letter, well, reply to my email, saying that they routinely sent coins to authenticate, and we did have material submitted to us from law enforcement during the period of 1st of the 1st 98 to the 1st of the 1st 2002, which is the period we search, based on the dates specified in your letter and stage names, but nothing related to those names. So they do keep stuff from that time period, but nothing related to me or my case. Which further says to me that the chances are the coins were never checked. But even if they were, there's no proof of the chain of evidence, as already mentioned. 10 days they were in Mahmood's possession before he handed them to the police. And at no point were they ever confiscated from me, because after I delivered them to Mahmood on the 9th, after collecting them from the place his associates told me, using the money they supplied, I never saw them again. And I only did it because I was under the influence of drugs. I now know because my drinks have been spiked, I believe, as explained on circusofthemind.net. I'd got severe manipulation behind the scenes and threats, and I thought it'd be fine journalistically in the public interest, and it would expose the lengths that Mahmood would go to, but for some reason they gave Mahmood journalistic license for buying things, but didn't give me journalistic license for going and picking them up using the money he supplied and getting them from the source that they told me to get them from. And then there's no chain of evidence for 10 days on the things anywhere. This is my DBS, and that just further confirms that all the records are wrong, because apparently the 2 convictions I got were for delivery of counterfeit coin to another on the 9th of April and delivery of counterfeit coin to another on the 9th of April, both of which, as you've seen in a previous document, apparently happened at the same time, at the same place, the same offence. How is that possible? It isn't. The point is, the reason there's a document saying originally they were just going to be one charge, which is what I thought was the case, is because, which you can see there on the 2nd of the 9th, 98, one charge of one indictment of 1,000 coins. It's because, and that was the 9th of 4th, because that is what happened, 1,000 coins on the 9th of the 4th, 98. The 3 coins on the 2nd of the 4th, the police accepted the fact that they were just taken from my pocket and therefore were genuine, and therefore no offence had taken place. So it's just mental. It's been paperwork errors, as well as no disclosure from the CPS, as we've covered in another video. And, well, yeah, it's just bonkers. Go to circusofthemind.net. You can check out more at circusofthemind.net. But here's some things that seem to back up the assertion I'd made that I believe my drinks were spiked, more than likely drugged with a GHB style date rape drug to make me more compliant, and that this is something that, having done some research over the past few years, I've discovered was mentioned by loads of people. Now, you can see my grounds of appeal on circusofthemind.net, and also on circusofthemind.net you'll see the video regarding non-disclosure by the CPS and the video regarding the errors with paperwork, the chain of evidence being ridiculous, and the full story behind what went on and what not. Anyway, you'll see my grounds of appeal. One of the things is that in particular, it is said that Mahmood surreptitiously administered date rape type drugs to his targets in order to inebriate them and render them more susceptible to manipulation. There's other things on there that he messed with evidence, edited it, loads of other things, but we're just talking about the drugs here. And as you can see, there's various other things. Clearly pointing out here that on the 2nd of April, the 3 £1 coins I gave were genuine from my pocket, and the ones on the 9th of April were from a place told to get them from by Mahmood's associates, and they provided the money. You can see that on screen at circusofthemind.net. So, here, as you can see, is the witness statement of Stephen Grayson, 17th of May 2021, in support of my appeal. You can see Stephen Grayson talking about his time working with Mahmood in the BBC Panorama documentary Fake Sheik Exposed, which again can be seen on circusofthemind.net. This is the bit to look at. I'll leave you to read it. Spiking of drinks. I've been asked what I know about the spiking of drinks. Mazher boasted that he knew a pharmacist who could provide him with a GHB-like drug and that he used it in his social life to seduce, if that is the right word, young women. On occasion, I acted as Mazzy's butler, and I noticed how quickly the girls became disinhibited even after a small amount of drinks. I recall one incident when I strongly suspected that a spiked drink was used in a News of the World sting. This incident took place in a suite at the Savoy. There was a man and a woman. The man was turning over the woman, i.e. he was working with us and betraying the woman, stitching her up. I recall it was something to do with a plan to rob a betting shop, but I am not certain. The woman was not being very forthcoming, and Mazher offered her a drink. Unusually, instead of getting a flunky to serve the drinks, he made it himself and brought it over. Within 15 to 20 minutes, the woman said that she was feeling woozy but was much more talkative. She was later sick in the bathroom. It seemed to me at the time that he had spiked her drink. Someone who worked with Mahmood closely at one time, now giving me a statement to say that he'd witnessed it occur and that Mahmood bragged about it as well. As you can see, Talisa was left hyper-drunk after a meeting with undercover reporter, the Fake Sheik. This is the case that collapsed in 2014. Obviously, the Fake Sheik denied spiking Talisa's drink, but her barrister, Jeremy Dine, did make that assertion in court. As you can see, the reporter denied spiking her drinks, but isn't it odd? As you can see, Jeremy Dine said, "You and Nish spiked her drink, didn't you?" The witness firmly responded, "That being Mahmood, that's absolutely outrageous." Mr. Dine continued to spike her drinks to get her to incriminate herself. Former X Factor judge Talisa broke her code out. You can see down here it says, when you look, that Southwark Crown Court heard that Mahmood spiked her drink. That was in 2014, the case that collapsed and ultimately led to Mahmood being jailed for conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. This is, you can find the links to this on circusofthemind.net, and everything you're seeing is on circusofthemind.net, and there's a bit that says see my past 24 years of research. You go and click on that link and you will get the links to these various newspaper articles and web archives and stuff. And this one regarding a Dr. Manohar Ranwani took place in January 1998, okay, the sting, which was before my alleged offence in March 98. And in this, He said he must have been given a drug as he could not recall any discussions. This is a doctor saying he believes he was drugged and he couldn't. This is before my case. So if the drugs were being used as the assertion was made then, it makes sense that they could have also been used on my case, which is backed up by the fact that, you know, he bragged about being able to get such to Steve Grayson. Steve Grayson witnessed such occurring on at least one occasion. You can see this article as I'm said, but I think I must have taken something that blocked my memory. I can only come to the conclusion that I was given some drugs, and this is a doctor saying that. And you can look at that again, as I say, on circusofthemind.net. Also, the Newcastle directors Hall and Shepherd suspected that the team spiked their drinks in order to elicit their indiscretions. An article there, Sunday 9th of May 99. You can find the links on circusofthemind.net by following the link to my 24 years of research to that article where they say they believe that their drinks, when that failed, they suspect Mahmood or else a member of his team spiked their drinks in order to elicit their indiscretions. It's in that article. John Higgins, who rarely drinks, was suspicious of drinks provided to him in 2010. And in the article by Roy Greenslade, you can see that 2 directors of Newcastle United Club were back to them again, believe the drinks were spiked, and John Higgins, who rarely drinks, was suspicious of drinks provided to him in 2010. The Earl of Ardwick believed his champagne was spiked with a date rape type drug. And that was mentioned, as you can see there, applied with champagne, possibly spiked with the date rape drug Rofinol or similar. Mr. Jones said the paper had been accused in the past of drugging the drinks of others it had targeted, and added there were a number of indications suggesting the same tactic had been used on this occasion. Lawrence Delagio, News of the World, denied spiking his drinks, as they would do, but that was May 1999 when they denied that. It happened before then, so this is all around, not long after my case, and we've had one that predates my case, so, it seems to point to that it was his modus operandi, and that would have also taken place with me. And as you can see, he believes that his drinks were drugged. John Alford, that article, all of these can be accessed by going to circusofthemind.net and clicking on where it says see my past 24 years of research. And mine was, it says here in almost every detail, the subterfuge involved mirrors what happened in the Talisa trial case. Same with mine, so it does, as you'll see when you look at all the evidence at circusofthemind.net. As you can see, drinks, like so many other of Mahmood's victims, believed they were spiked. He was asked if he could. Again, I've not yet had the chance to fully, have the evidence, including the statement from Steve Grayson, who used to work with Mahmood, fully heard at the Royal Courts of Justice, because unfortunately in January 2022 they did not give me permission to appeal out of time or to vary my grounds. Hopefully now that it's gone to the Criminal Cases Review Commission, as you can see at circusofthemind.net, they will send it back, and then these things can be looked at. The fact that I was drugged, the fact that we've now got receipt proving that unlawful information gathering, phone hacking took place. In fact, I've got statements galore showing his modus operandi of editing tapes, manipulating evidence, lying, entrapment, intimidation and threats behind the scenes, and all the other things that happened to me as detailed at circusofthemind.net.
Here is the fake Sheik in his pomp working for the News of the World. And here he is, bringing down London's burning star John Alford. The actor served 9 months for supplying drugs. Today, the boot was on the other foot. Mazher Mahmood got 15 months for perverting the course of justice when yet another showbiz sting, this time against pop star Tulisa, went wrong. Mazher Mahmood was once one of Britain's most feared journalists. Now he's on his way to prison, and it's time for for his victims to have their say. These people have one thing in common: their lives were wrecked by the fake Sheik. Stage hypnotist Jonathan Royle says he was stitched up by Mahmood when he got 6 months in prison for giving the reporter fake coins.
I can't describe what it was like from the moment that the judge said, "Send him down." Your mind plays tricks on you. It was a living nightmare. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. Well, I was put on suicide watch in strange ways. I slept for weeks in prison, fully clothed, scared that what you see in films might happen. People have now started to see that what I've been saying for the past 18.5 years actually is true. The man is a liar.
Another scalp, former world champion boxer Herbie Hyde, who got 22 months for supplying drugs.
Mahmood had so much evidence, so much which he created himself. Like he said, I sent him a text saying that I wrote him a text saying that I've got the cocaine and the match fixing. I cannot spell cocaine. Nevertheless, match fixing. I can't spell them words. Prison, I cried every day. And I thought in prison, I might as well kill myself if I want to put this thing to my family. You know?
Proud of you.
You know what I'm saying?
You're vindicated.
So that was how I felt. I thought I might as well end it.
Another victim, Emma Morgan. Emma, you didn't go to prison. You were a Page 3 girl. What effect did Mazher Mahmood's journalism have on you?
Basically, because of the story that went out about me, I lost my home, I lost my job. It wasn't just a job, it was a career. And a career that I think I would have done very well at, and it would have lasted quite a long time. He stole that from me.
A fourth scalp, John Alford. His career ended in 1999 after Mahmood's sting.
It was very convenient for the police. The Police and Criminal Evidence Act was put in place to protect us from unscrupulous police officers. They had a very, very, very cosy relationship with the press because they can use lies, trickery and deceit to get a story, which they call subterfuge. Very convenient for them, very damning for us.
Their solicitor is calling for an inquiry, and she's damning about the conduct of the Metropolitan Police.
Corrupt.
Corrupt.
Absolute corruption.
Corrupt is a heavy word.
It is, and what was going on was very heavy and very serious, but we have evidence of that. I hope finally people will listen to what these men have been saying all along, and I would stress this: there isn't one of those convictions that Mahmood sustained has not been tainted by his behaviour. Not one.
The reporter's victims plan to sue News UK in the civil courts. Today, the company said they would fight those cases, and that Mahmood had led scores of successful investigations during his 25-year career with the company, which had led to the exposure of criminality and wrongdoing.
For the likes of us and the other people that he stung, I certainly don't feel justice has been done, do you?
Not really.
No. No. And as far as not wishing it on my worst enemy, I'm more than happy that Mazher Mahmood is now sat there, quaking in his boots, wondering what's going to happen to him in jail. I'd like to be a fly on the wall.
The question now is, why did the authorities let these people suffer for so long?
So there you go. If you still think that either of my criminal convictions for delivery of counterfeit coins are in any way safe, because they're not, I was wrongfully convicted, then please do check out unsafeconvictions.wordpress.com and circusofthemind.net. And if you then don't come to the only logical realisation that they are beyond unsafe, I should never have even gone to court in the first place, then
I've got some swampland I'd like to tell you to build on. Because at the end of the day, thanks to disclosure in Alex Smith versus News Group newspapers filed on the 30th of September 2022, which News Group newspapers weaponised a Part 36 offer at the end of 2024 to effectively silence me and keep my evidence out of court. And then at the start, well, March to be precise, 2025, they issued me a private letter of apology for the actions of privacy intrusion, aka phone hacking, unlawful information gathering, that had taken place against me. I got disclosure that gives me copies of the videos and audios that had never been disclosed to me before, documents, proof that I was being surveyed and manipulated before, during and after, and even during my legal cases. Proof that Mahmood never told the police a whole bunch of stuff. He lied from day one. I'll be going to the Criminal Cases Review Commission on Tuesday, the 3rd of February 2026. I'll be there at 10:30 a.m. Media, you're invited. See you there.
Rupert Murdoch's fake Sheikh Mazher Mahmood didn't just lie about and stitch me up and use illegal techniques like phone hacking and drugging my drinks, as I assert on circusandthemind.net, but he also targeted royalty, including Sophie Wessex, her PR company partner Murray Harkin, Sarah Ferguson, and of course Prince Harry. Speaking of Prince Harry, I was